Hello and welcome to the Jank Bank here on the Mended Drum. I'm Warren and today I'm going to be talking about massive creatures. Why? Because massive creatures still have a special place in my heart. I still remember the joy that I got when I very first saw a Polar Kraken in Ice Age. 1111, ridiculous cumulative upkeep. It didn't matter. That thing in my head was the most devastating creature that existed. I needed to get copies. Now, creatures are so much more powerful than that poor little 1111, and that excites me. I like that. Can we get a million really big creatures onto the board at the same time? Can we hurt our opponent the old fashioned way? I think we can. Let's have a look at the deck.
Alright, so the aim of the deck is to use ramping and then treasure tokens to create a whole lot of mana and get those massive creatures out. Jasper Sentinel is good for creating mana, but also for tapping Magda the Brazen Outlaw, who will start you on your treasure token collection. Magda also good for sacking those treasures later to fetch dragons. Cultivate is simple ramp. Gadrak the Crown Scourge will get you a good blocker early on and potentially attack later. Now, the main point is to get as many treasure tokens as possible, and Goldspan Dragon makes that possible while also being a good attacker. Terror of the Peaks, marvelous when those big creatures start coming down. The Tarask is basically a game finisher, very difficult to get rid of, and Old Norbone will give you the treasure tokens you need to cast that Tarask and all the other large creatures. Waking the Trolls is useful because it creates firstly a lot of big creatures, but secondly it gives you some nice ramp, and it can destroy critical lands. Inferno the Star Mount is mainly there just for haste and to be different. Lands, let's keep it simple, just mountains and forests. There is an additional card left, and that's Long Rest, which I find later in the game with a lot of treasure tokens and a lot of mana is very useful for refilling your hand and getting those big creatures back onto the board.
The Tarask, what a card, right? If we can actually get that thing on the board and start having it hurting our opposition, then surely we must win at that point. Personally, my suspicion is that Old Norbone is going to be the thing that breaks that. Because if we can get a couple of treasure tokens out and really slap down some of those big creatures quickly, then maybe we stand a chance of beating decks that are top tier as well.
Alright, our first hand is looking basically exactly what we want. There's a Jasper Sentinel, some nice Cultivate in there. Inferno the Star Mount's maybe a bit expensive, Long Rest a bit unnecessary, but we'll take it. Let's start getting the process going. We're going to need a little bit more land. Just one more land so we can activate that Cultivate. We're playing against another red-green deck. This one probably relying on pack tactics. Okay, so it's a bit of a landfall deck. We're going to be taking some early damage because these decks tend to be quite fast. We're obviously not going to block with the Jasper Sentinel and Magda Brazen Outlaw, might as well use them now. Just accept our fate, take some damage. There we go, that's convenient, nice draw. This way we can get something big and blocky down. Also, next turn it means that the stuff we cast then will start dealing damage to their creatures and we can start taking out some of their army. Assuming it survives, of course. They've got no mana, so we can safely block here. Alright. Now that each of our treasure tokens are worth 2 mana each because of the Goldspan Dragon, things are going to get ridiculous. Yeah, it's pretty much game over. Unnecessary taunting, but I don't like to do the effective good game and call the thing before it's actually over. Find that obnoxious. Anyway, it is a victory. Right, now we need to mulligan. Tarask that early on is unfortunately not very useful. We do have 2 Cultivates though, so should be able to get some mana out. To be able to cast that Terror of the Peaks, and hopefully we'll draw some big creatures as we go. little bit behind. They've still got 7 cards in hand. That's not ideal. I'm just counting the mana. Looking at that Tarask, we've actually got the mana in hand to cast it. And if we can get it down, it's going to reap absolute fiery vengeance upon our enemies. Attack with that Lord Drakus now, because soon your revenge is coming. And here's our Tarask. And of course the wonderful thing about Tarask is really that Ward 10. At this stage of the game, there's absolutely no way your opponent can take it out. Tusky will only be a problem for that one turn, because Tusky obviously has to attack every single turn. So now we can fight the defender and then just deal 10 damage. It looks like he's got some pretty big creatures of his own, but unfortunately it will not be coming out in time. Yep, game over. Alright, our next hand, quite expensive apart from that Cultivate, which will help us to ramp. We are going to need to hope that they are a little bit slow in turns 1, 2 and 3. And they're playing what appears to be a white-green counters deck. Maybe life gain. Potentially both life gain counters. Taking his time on the thinking here. Really our only move is that Cultivate. And next turn we'll be able to start casting Terror of the Peaks, and then everything we get down will hopefully kill some of his creatures. Assuming he doesn't have a Banishing Light or other inconvenient thing. No, he's dropping a Questing Beast. We'll take it. We can take out the Questing Beast, and maybe it's a little bit defensive of me. I want to be able to block that giant ox and kill it if necessary. We are only on 9 life, so being a bit defensive is excusable. Now this will get us a lot of treasure tokens, and those treasure tokens we can then use to cast basically everything else. The Waking the Trolls may seem like an odd choice at this point, but it is setting us up defensively for the future. We don't know what he's got in his hand. There's conceivably Doom Scars or other creature destruction. Realm Cloak Giant, the rarer version of that. Now Long Rest will be able to fill up our hand next turn. We've got a lot of treasure tokens and a lot of cards in the graveyard. Long Rest I really find very underrated. In the right deck it's very useful. Look at that. Hand is absolutely full now. Fortunately no mana to keep that cave untapped and defending. Alright, new hand. Good. Jasper Sentinel, Cultivate, nice ramp. Old Gnawbone is there, which means we should be able to get Old Gnawbone out. Hopefully we draw one or two cheaper things than that in the first few turns. Okay, he's blue, so not necessarily going to be the fastest deck out there. Blue-black tends to be control in this environment. And it is. Here comes some discard. Don't need the long rest just now. Let's keep the ramp going. So next turn we will be able to actually drop Old Gnawbone. He has tapped, so there's no counter. I'm sure he's got loads of creature destruction though. So let's take quick advantage of Old Gnawbone and gain back our treasure tokens. There you go. That was not unexpected. Now, apart from attacking for 8, they will also produce 6 mana worth of treasures, which is perfect for... never mind, Waking the Trolls got negated. Mind Flayer steals one of our Goldspan dragons. Let's just get back a couple of cards in the graveyard, but we're going to need some extra mana for that. There we are. Right, now we're setting up nicely for the future. Still got another long rest, so we can afford to trade off these 2 dragons. Long rest just keeping us in the game again. I really do think it's highly underrated. So there's 4 4/4s. So while he's got the Imrith, he's not the only one playing with big creatures. That's an interesting attack. I don't really see the benefit of it. Maybe he's just decided those creatures are in general useless. Maybe he's giving up. So sacrificing 5 treasures was enough.
I don't think I'm ever going to get over the joy of winning with massive creatures. That's just got to be a thing I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. Anyway, if you liked the deck, please click like, subscribe, comment, let me know what you thought. Who should I be adding in? What creatures have I missed out? And we'll see you next week on the Jank Bank.